Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Veterinary Ramblings. My name is Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Hode.
Wow, what a day today! How was
a
your
day.
day today?
I've been cold all day, Mike. I'll tell you why. I've been sitting in the office
Yeah.
on Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, doing stuff for the school.
Right.
And it's cold in there. It's back of the house, and I've been miserable. So it's good to get warm. I've got a Negroni here. It's going to warm me up. I've got my thick Sherpa jumper on.
Very nice too.
And I'm sitting in front of my orchids, so I'm all right. How about you, Mike? How was your day?
Well, I'm a bit frustrated because I sat in my office all day today, waiting for a courier to deliver some kit to me, and the tracking note said that they would be there at between 10:30 and 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, traffic for me this morning was quite bad. I was glad I was on the motorbike. Let's give them a little bit of latitude as 3:30 came. And then I sent a message saying, where's my kit? I got nothing back. And 4:30 came and went. And 5:30 came and went. So in a little bit of a fit of rage, I telephoned said courier company to be told, well, if you haven't had the delivery today, we won't be delivering today. We'll deliver to you on Monday.
Oh, for heaven's sake. FFS.
Yes, FFS. Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Hode.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings.
We need something to cheer us up, don't we? Do we have a nice guest tonight? Will our guest cheer us up, do you think?
I think our guest will definitely cheer us up tonight.
Who's on tonight?
Well, tonight, it's not Mr. Dr. Professor, Mr. Anybody. Dr. Alison Lambert is our guest tonight.
Associate Professor Dr. Alison Lambert.
Associate Professor Dr. Alison Lambert, absolutely.
She's the Associate Professor at Nottingham University, isn't she?
Yep.
Now she's a business lecturer there, isn't she? Veterinary business lecturer.
Right.
Should we have her on? Have a chat?
Let's get Alison in and see how she is. I can see she's in the waiting room. So, with no further ado, let's get Dr. Alison Lambert in.
Oh, hello.
Or should
Hello.
Hello. Should we call you Associate Professor?
Well, you can call me many things. Yes, but my name's Alison. Really, it's all good. It's all good.
Prof. We'll call you Prof.
Prof. I'd rather you didn't. It's an honorary thing, so nothing
On
worse
Prof.
than someone assuming stature beyond their educational capabilities. So.
Well, on Prof. Great to see you.
Nice to see you too. Cheers.
See you, Alison. Good evening. What's that you're drinking there, Alison? Is that?
This is a delightful Sauvignon Blanc, Cloudy Bay, Marlborough, 2019.
The Sauvignon Blancs are available.
They are. Oh, yes, I forgot about that, but I don't like them.
No, they're not as nice.
So this is a nice, slightly less acid, I think, than 2018, and slightly more fragrant, personally speaking. Not that I'm a bit of a snob about Sauvignon Blanc, but I am.
Do you know? I think I was slightly more fragrant in 2019 and 2018.
Do you think so?
I think so, definitely. I've heard people tell me that.
Good job we have sniffer vision, really.
Smelly vision.
Anyway,
It's really good to see you on the show tonight, Alison. Thanks for coming on. And so you were brought up in various parts of Yorkshire, and then you became a vet, and then you worked for Hills for a while.
Oh yes.
And now is the most exciting part of your career because you
missed a bit then. You missed a bit. It wasn't Hills to now. There's a bit Hills to somewhere to now.
It was. Hold on, and it was Hills to Mars.
Yes.
To Mars.
Yeah, I was going to let the cat in, but I closed the door. But yes, Mars was the most formative part of my career to date, I reckon.
Right.
Why is that?
Why? It's a very good question because at the time it didn't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
But on reflection, it certainly was. I had a ball, because the journey to the Mars organisation for me was, go to vet school, be a vet, be a vet, be a vet. First job wasn't a brilliant move. Second job, they went bust. Third job didn't go awfully well. Have I missed anybody out? And then the last job was Black Wednesday and stuff happened, and everything went a bit crazy. So I ended up selling dog food. Went back to locuming and then ended up at Mars. So there's kind of this tortuous pathway of craziness. But Mars, I wasn't a vet. I was just me. I was Alison. So I was employed because I could do the job they needed doing, which was customer insights or marketing or sales management or whatever. So I stopped being a vet. And I think that may be something that all vets should do for a while, is be a human and don't carry this badge, which is why I don't use a doctor title. I don't particularly like the badging that we've put on ourselves, because I think it creates an expectation in ourselves of ourselves, and actually we're people first and we're veterinary surgeons second. And I do think we need to be more human.
I must admit, one of the best times of my veterinary career was driving a dumper truck for my brother's brother-in-law, who makes ornamental ponds, and I worked there for a month and had a fantastic time, absolutely great. And it was able to sort of put my career back into more perspective.
What I used to love about Miles, and on reflection, I did love it in the moment. The last couple of years, it was like I was quite senior and had to be responsible and stuff, and that was like, not sure about this. Was you could look at a situation commercially, and because you've been trained, your brain, the veterinary brain, is an incredibly well-trained thing. You only get into vet school because you've got some intellectual capability. I did struggle a bit to get in, I have to say. If it wasn't for Eric Pickering, and the Liverpool graduates will know Eric Pickering was a god, sadly no longer with us, but without Eric Pickering, I would never got into vet school because I played hockey. In my A-levels were dubious. I've got 7 A-levels, A through D, over 3 years. But I could play hockey, and that was kind of the prerequisite for Liverpool at that time. So I think that rebooting this intellect, and when you take yourself out of veterinary context and you go into an industrial or commercial context, you see things with a clarity, which is like sit rep, stuff, triage, bang, 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 job done, treatment plan. And that's business. And I think that's why I've enjoyed doing what I'm doing, because you don't have to be big or clever. You just have to use your intellect. I think vets are highly capable of doing so many other things. So driving a dump truck was probably that give you headspace back.
It was brilliant. It was really good. Yeah. There was a fantastic day where I was. We were building a 3/4 of an acre pond in someone's garden. I think he was a pond, a big pond,
lake
in someone's garden.
A lake.
He wanted it to be a pond. Wanted it to be a pond, ornamental pond, and he was an oil baron of some sort from one of the United Arab Emirates, and I was driving my dumper truck through his land because he wanted the soil from the pond taken and used to make a flower garden on the other side.
Sorry. Excuse me, I'll just get the cat.
Okay. and so I was driving this dumper truck full of soil through his stables, and his young wife was there tending to one of the horses, and I saw her riding a horse, and I said, whoa. She said, what? I said, your horse is lame on the off fore. She looked at me in my mud bespattered garb, my hard hat, and she said, what? I said, yeah, I think there might be something in the foot. Do you mind if I have a quick look? So I hopped off the dumper truck, and she got off the horse, and I lifted the foot up and said, oh yeah, do you have a hoof knife? And she said, yes. She handed it to me. I dug around. So there's pus in the foot here. I said, I can't do anything about this just yet, but you need to get your farrier out, take the shoe off, and get the vet in. But there's pus in the foot here. She said, horrible little man, you've ruined my day's ride. Well, but 2 days later, I got to the building site, and there was a case of champagne on the dumper truck.
Wow.
She was so grateful I'd saved her horse's foot. So we're drifting away from your career a little bit, because then you went and founded Onswitch.
Yes, I did. Out of necessity. I didn't have a job.
but out of necessity from the veterinary side as well, because there was no other company like Onswitch, and there still is. So, but Mike and I often say when we're talking about items on this show, we always say, you know, other such and such are available. But with Onswitch, there isn't really anything else available, is there?
No, genuinely there isn't, and I think that's because it's a niche, it's a box and a niche, which is like the customer experience. And back in 2001, when Onswitch was founded, it had various iterations before it became Onswitch, and that's a story that needs telling. Why it became called Onswitch, because it wasn't called that at the beginning. It wasn't anything, but that was a Mars thing, which was if you understand your customers and you know why they do what they do and what they want, and you learn how to communicate that to them, even though they didn't know they did want it, then that's a thing. And that's a whole discipline of customer experience, you know, marketing, all of that kind of thing, research. So when I made the decision to leave Mars on that Thursday morning, which I did, I just kind of walked out and went, I can't do this anymore. Sat in the car park and cried for an hour and said, that's it, I'm out of here, which was 2001. I actually needed a job. And it was like, I'm unemployable, so let's start business. What do I know? I know this customer experience thing, the Mars thing, which was, you know, massive family-owned, marketing-led organization. And I'm a vet, you know, so let's put these two together, and then I'll go and knock on a few doors and say, hey, I can help you do this. And they'll just look at me and went, why do we need to do that? I said, because you could be better. No, we're fine. And then that same parallel process was change in the regulations of human practices. So other people came in and started doing all the things I knew how to do. So then practice went, oh yeah, we do need that now. So 20 years ago, 2001, well, 20 years ago, next year. Yeah, and I don't think it's a very interesting niche because it's all about putting the customer human at the middle of the thinking process. And people go, yeah, but we do animals. I'm going, yeah, but they don't pay bills. They don't drive cars. They can't work pinning machines. You know, you need to get the human. If you don't get the human, you don't get the pet, you don't get the horse, you don't get the farm. You know, you've got your interface is the other humans. It's a human-human thing. So it always drives me potty when people say they want to be a vet because they love animals. And it's like, that's probably not the right reason. Because it's
you've got to love the people. There is, without the human interaction, there is no vet.
So that thing about people not being available, you know, without people, there isn't a profession. But the COVID experience has absolutely proved that.
Yes,
it's become very disconnected for colleague-to-colleague communication and colleague-to-client. Except for the farm and equine guys, who's obviously, because they're fresh air, they're kind of slightly different. But the building-based work has struggled with its communication path.
It has, and actually, I went from thinking at the start of lockdown, where we were still treating, but grabbing the pets from the owners, shouting, "You're dirty, go away," and running into the practice, clutching their pets. I started thinking, this is quite good. We've got 20 minutes, half an hour to examine this cat without any interruptions. For the last month or so, we've been allowing clients back into the practice, and I've realised why I love the job as much as I do. And it's not taking the animal in isolation and thinking, yeah, there's a problem here, I can use drugs or surgery to fix it. It's actually getting to know the human-animal bond, and it's learning it afresh each day and thinking, how can I make that better? Not how can I make the cat better, that's part of it, but how can I improve that bond? And it's really important in this day and age where so many people are isolated. So isolation has become socially isolating. We have a lot of people who can only relate to their pets because they can't see their family, they can't see their friends. And we need to treat that. We don't just need to get a dog better or a cat better. And you've had problems with your cat recently, haven't you, Alison?
Yes, you can probably hear him whinging in the background. He may yet make an appearance. Yes, poor old Shammy, famous Shammy. If you follow Onswitch on Facebook, you'll know Shammy Cat. He's an 8-year-old male neuter Tonkinese, for those that wish to know that actually he's a critter as well. Yes, he stayed out, dirty stop out, and had a fight with somebody a bit bigger than himself. So trip to the vets yesterday morning, all fixed, big bite wound. We thought he'd maybe done something to his kind of shoulder or elbow, so he's had x-rays and magic has happened. But the beauty of the whole experience was no phone calls. It was like text, cat not well, bringing him in, great, see you at 10, fantastic, drop off, here's the cat, fix cat. okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing the other. Here's his X-ray. Here's his fluids. Here's what's happening. His bloods are showing this. It's a big hole. He'll stay the night. Updates. He's good. Can you pick him up at 3? Jobs are good. And here's your bill. Pick up cat home. And on cue. Chancellor, do you want to come in? Shall I get him? Because he's literally there now.
Yeah, get him. Bring him up.
Come here, Shams.
Yeah.
Oh, don't run away.
I know, it's those baldy guys. I'm clearing off.
Yeah. And that bloke's going to call me cat in Mandarin.
He's run away just to prove I need my blankets. Bloody
Just
cold,
to prove
you know.
You're chilly, are you?
He's run away, but he's fine, bless him.
Yeah.
But just picking up on what we were saying earlier.
No. So no phone calls.
I didn't ring. I just went, oh, cat not well. I'm coming down. I just leave him with you. And the communication between okay, I know the practice, you know. Yeah. But they do that. That's not me getting special treatment. It's how they handle their client base. And so I got a video this morning just to say he's fine. You know, can you come and pick him up at 3? And I go, yes. Then I get, and here's his account. I'm going, thank you. I'll pay the excess and do the claim and yada yada. So simple. You know, very connected, even though not through a phone call. And that's one of the big things, I suppose, is that, you know, when I look at, you know, you pick up your phone and you go, you don't ring Ryanair, do you, to book a flight? Hello, Mr. Ryanair, can I book a flight? You don't do that. You just
I don't because I know they're going to add everything to it when I do that. So I avoid Ryanair. But
it's a seamless experience. And the cat's fine, even though he's moany. He wants to go out and it's blown a force 9 and he's got a big green bandage on his leg. But no, he's good. That was thank you to Warrington Vets for looking after Shami and having me as a client.
well done. So Warrington Vets, is that whereabouts?
Warrington Vets in Peterborough. Yes, they look after my critters and they tolerate me.
Well, I think Warrington Vets are doing a great job. Well done, Warrington Vets. Please
yes.
I'll raise a glass to that. Well done, Warrington Vets.
Get the praise. Fantastic job. You had a conference.
We had a conference in June, yes, but it didn't happen physically.
Right.
Because we weren't allowed. And to be fair, on a very serious note, there are industries who are utterly devastated because they can't legally trade, such as the hospitality and the events guys. And there are a huge amount of people who I know through theatre and, you know, the arts who are utterly devastated by this, you know. So I think the veterinary profession, given their trading up on last year, most practices seem to be having a bit of a boom time. It's not, everyone's not having the same pandemic. I think a little humility sometimes is actually not a bad idea.
Absolutely. We're all struggling in different ways, I think, but some people are really struggling, having a desperately poor time with this.
Yeah, and you know, the conference we made the decision to go ahead and record all the speakers, but not in real time. So then we would put it all together so that people could view it later. And on reflection, that was probably one of the daftest decisions I've ever made. Is we should have just done it in real time, because the speakers were booked to do it physically.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be here and do it. It's just not happening now. But can you just sit at home and do that same slot now? But the moment we said we'll do it before the end of June, that drifted for a lot of people. Their diaries got stretched, and I think the discipline of having it's now and it's this time and it's this day, I think we should have stuck with that, but we thought we'd make it easier for people, and that didn't really work. We won't do that again.
But we can still access it. Sorry, Mike?
Did that come across in their presentations?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody, I mean, all the speakers, I mean, there's 25 hours or 5 streams, there's 25 hours of content, and from lots of different people doing lots of different perspectives from us, you know, from across the globe. And they all have their content is around that aspect of the whole customer experience delivery, whether that's from the front desk, from the consult room, from leading or managing teams, or on farm, SQP, or in a difficult situation. So they all had a good story to tell and some great content. It was just, you know, when you look back, you go, could I have done it differently? And the answer is yes, I could have, because I could have said, we're going ahead with the schedule as planned, but you're just going to be sat at home. Whereas we said, we're not going ahead. we can do it before. And it just, people's lives are busy. You know, you ask a lot of people when they're speaking, you know, okay, they get their pay, and because they're given their time and what have you. But we should have stuck to a diarised. And next year we will do something live but digitally, I think.
Okay, so we've discussed a number of times that gin is so much more than a breakfast drink.
Much more.
So allowing for the time differences, you've spoken there, Alison, that you had speakers from Australia. Is this the CX conference that you're referring?
Yeah, CX. So CX Congress 2020.
Right.
So that's the 6th or 7th. I lose track. I think it's the 6th or 7th one this year.
Right.
So we have 4 speakers from Australia.
Right.
And they covered all sorts of interesting perspectives. So Kathy Uren, she talked about how she owns a practice, but she manned the front desk throughout the pandemic, so she came to front. Kate Toyer, Kate's experience, they had their practices in Bateman's Bay, and they were devastated by the fires. You remember the Australian Navy rescued people from Bateman's Bay, their practices at Bateman's Bay, so they just recovered from fire, and then they were into the pandemic. And Kate's story is a very powerful story. Steve Jocelyn from Veterinary DB, and Steve's a great guy, amazing beard, amazing.
Yeah, looks like ZZ Top, wasn't he?
Yeah, great guy. Yeah. Talk about the future, using the microchip as a Bluetooth thing with a bit of magic to know that you've got this blockchain enabled certification of activity. Way beyond my pay scale, but really interesting session. And Brooke Champers, who's an emergency vet on the Gold Coast. So those guys all talked about their aspects of how what they do impacts on the customer experience and ultimately the patient outcomes. So available to download if you go to the Onswitch website. You can pay to view, and also the back collections from the previous years as well. So the CX Congress collection, really nice bunch of people, all who've got a different perspective. And we desperately need to just see that bit that we do so much clinical CPD, and we have to. I get that. But you can only get the owners to say yes to treatment plans and do the right thing for patients if you get the human and make it easy for them. That's the key to it.
So it is, and actually, it's not just about getting owners to consent to treatment. And it's not just about getting more money for the practice. It's actually about enjoying your life and having a bit of mental well-being as well. If you can improve your communication as a vet, then there are fewer misunderstandings. Clients get more out of it, you get more out of it, there are fewer complaints, and much more enjoyment to be had. I absolutely, I've said it before, I say it again, I love the job I do, absolutely love it. I've got some amazing clients who I've known for a good percentage of my life now. So most of my clients are actually my friends. The new vets that are coming out, I think, struggle because they're often not able to be in practices for as long. They're not able to be in practices for as long hours either. The nature of practice has changed. So when I first started, I was on call, most of the time it seemed, and you see people before breakfast, after breakfast, middle of the night, and you do get to know them very well. You get to see them, pajamas and all, don't you? When they rush into the practice late at night. So the newer vets have to make a relationship with the client on a sort of 9 to 5 basis, and unless they get skills from you, because there are no other people giving those skills, then they really struggle. They can deal with the clinical stuff okay, but they can't deal with the human side of things so well.
You make a very interesting perspective, and I think our generation are very much in danger of saying in the good old days it looked like this, and it can be heard that way. It's not intended that way. I know that's not
no. Believe me, I didn't like the good old days of being on call 7 days a week and 305 days a year. But there are differences.
And the key though is that experience of being the only person who was there to make the decision. So for me, one of the things that I would do if I changed the way vets qualified, went through education and then worked in their first 2 or 3 years, I actually think doing on call for 2 years makes your decision making easier, because it's like the worst that can happen is nothing happens. I can do something to change the outcome for this patient, and I'm the only one here. And I do think it changes and builds experiences of, I don't know the answer, but I'll do my damnedest, and that's okay. And we talk a lot about resilience, and there's a huge debate about whether you can teach resilience or whether resilience is a thing that becomes a learned because of incremental things. And I do think the not doing out of hours in the beginning, you know, that it's going from one extreme maybe to another. There was some rich learning in that. It's on me, and I can say, and there's nothing better than that feeling of that GDV coming in and you going, if I do nothing, it dies. If I do something, it may live. And that's a massive thing. I remember, I was not an orthopedic surgeon by anybody's stretch of imagination. But I looked after a greyhound. We had a dog track, and my boss at the time was very good with greyhounds, and I wasn't particularly good with greyhounds. However, this greyhound got back to running, which, for a greyhound is injured and can compete again. And the man, bless him, I've still got a photograph of him. He bought a trophy to present at the greyhound track. You know how you sponsor a race? He sponsored a race and he created a trophy. And I had to present it. It's like, mate, I'm a crap surgeon, but your dog can't run. It wasn't very good before it was injured, and it's still not very good now, but it's alive. But he was so pleased that I could do something. But today that wouldn't be possible, because someone would say that's a referral, Yes. And I think our yin yang of how do I learn to be comfortable with tissue handling and skills if I never do any, How do you go from no tissue handling to doing anything if you don't have the incremental moments? And I don't know about that.
There's two things you say there, both of you, and I think it's very important. I've come across it in elite sport in my career, and you never actually approach becoming a champion until you believe with your heart that you are that champion and you act like that champion. And that's one. And you've reminded me there of an interesting tweet I saw from a good friend of mine who I've known since he was year 2 veterinary student, and he's qualified. He's now, I think he's about 4 years postgrad, and he's got an internship. And you highlight a point there that he actually tweeted that today he faced the situation without calling for help. And he'd sort of crossed that Rubicon. He'd suddenly realised that he hadn't got that help available. It wasn't on the end of the phone. It wasn't on the internet, etc. He was going to have to man up, make that decision, and move forwards with the treatment protocol. And he made those decisions. It came good. It worked. And I think he's now assumed that mantle of a veterinary surgeon for the first time in his career. He's done so many marvelous things throughout, and now 4-5 years post-grad, he's had to make that critical decision. He hadn't got the support. He didn't rely on the support. He made that decision and has now grown as a man and as a veterinary surgeon moving forwards.
That is a huge thing,
I don't know. I mean, we're having just said it's, my generation, our generation is in danger of saying in the good old days it looked like this. But the idea of being 5 years before I would make an independent decision, that seems like an awfully long time as a professional colleague to be in the position to be uniquely making the decision for the first time. And
you're right.
And again, the vet school curriculum is packed with, modern kit and equipment and diagnosis and disease. I mean, ultrasound just wasn't invented when I qualified, and the internet wasn't either. This was the ultrasound, the ends of your fingers, and it's why my generation can still feel adrenal glands, is because we can. Because
Yeah.
Not scan them because we don't know how to turn a scanner on, but we can do this. Is there somewhere in there we've lost the experiential piece, which, when the medics and the house doctor rotations, I think that bit works for them because everybody gets a chance of having to be the person who makes a decision about something.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people don't like what I'm going to say next, but I genuinely think we have to really face into education is that we're creating some very highly skilled, highly intelligent people who, when they come out, they're faced with something that they haven't ever done. Is astonishing. Like, having never done a series of everyday dentistry, everyday neutering, everyday lumps and bumps, how can you not be ready for that? And my nephews are tradesmen in Australia, and one's an electrician and one's a carpenter. And as they went through their apprenticeship, their skills were incrementally built. So when they pass, they can do it. And I don't get why we don't. And I know I've had this conversation with the academics and the education people, and they just tell me it's not possible. But why can't we have a modern apprenticeship approach to incremental learning?
Right.
Absolutely.
I think that would take away all the issues of fear and confidence.
Yep.
It's exposing to little steps. It's like gaming, isn't it? People, level 15 on a game or whatever. You don't start. You start at 1, and then you go to 2, and I know it sounds simplistic, and I know that I'm in danger of probably annoying people by saying, I do think we need a professional apprenticeship. It works for accountancy, it works for law, it works for other high-skilled professionals.
It's an interesting concept.
But, you could, look, the Nottingham degree is 2 degrees. It's the 3-year degree, it's a science degree. So people can leave after 3 years if they feel that the veterinary pathway isn't for them. Yep. So they have a BSc equivalent, in a primary research, they can do the stuff and they move on. And some people do, they need that get out clause in a 5-year course, because you're not the same person 3 years after, arrival.
No, especially not at that age that you go in.
It's a lot, isn't it? So, and then the last 2 years are the clinical years. It's like you've done the science piece. Now let's do this bit, the bit that is and as it's a distributed model, it's, there isn't a veterinary hospital there. It's go to see real people, and it's kind of a halfway, and it's not a million miles, I don't think, from looking at a professional apprenticeship.
Moving back, we talk of risk aversion, don't we, these days in the new grads? And who can blame a new grad these days in this climate of litigation? Who can blame them for being risk averse?
Hang on a minute. What's the actual risk of someone being sued as a veterinary surgeon in the UK?
Well, to be honest, I don't know the actual risk, but I do know
not a lot.
No, but I do know the risk.
And as a new grad, it's no higher, I think, if I remember right from the last stats I saw.
Okay.
No, because clients aren't fools. Clients know that you're a new grad, and you're honest and tell them you're a new grad, and they will give you some form of leniency. But I think a lot of new grads are taught to be very risk averse. They're taught it's a bad world out there. And
that's my issue. Yes. Yeah. It isn't a bad world. It's just the world.
It's not. And they're taught that rather than being taught this is how to communicate what you know and what you don't know.
So
are there any particular lessons that UK vets could learn from? Not that we've got that many UK vets listening to the show. Most seem to be in America.
Okay.
From Australia?
The big thing for me is that if you want to scale a multi-site operation, so you want to have 50, 100, 200,000, 2,000 practices in the image of an operating model, you've got to define the operating model. You can't leave it up to people to make it up as they go along today. Like Monday, we're going to do it this way. Bugger it, next week we'll do it another way. You can't do that. It's got to be systemized. And the best systemized businesses are the ones we're all very familiar with, whether that's Starbucks or Costa or McDonald's or Bob Jane Tires or somebody who's just a systemized thing. And that just means you get exceptional consistency with everyday people. You don't need superstars in the building, and our profession relies on superstars in the building, and it's draining. You know what it's like. If you've got a pair, you've got a veterinary nurse pair, if they're working together, magic happens. You've got a different pair. You're still doing cat space at 4:00, and it's like, what happened? If you haven't systemized it, and it takes a bit of legwork. And it means that you say you can have all your clinical freedom in the world, absolutely, but the way we do it here is, and we systemize it so that people are brilliantly trained and inducted, and that they know what the right things to do are. And you take all the blah blah out. too much blah blah. Layers of management, squash.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the local site with the autonomy. They know what they're meant to do, so just do this. About 5 layers of management just cocks it all up.
So it's easy to see how individual vets in private practices can improve then, simply by going to your courses. Are you able to do anything with the corporates?
To be fair, we'll work with anyone if it pays their bills, to be honest. We've never kind of said we'll only work with certain people. I've always said, we'll work with you, pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, we won't work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we don't like you, we won't work with you. I've said that to few people. You've got to have a values alignment. Some people don't get it, and it's not going to work. You meet those people, you just go, stuff it, it's not going to happen. So we work with large groups, multi-site operators. We work with people who, in different countries where English isn't the first language. So, the principles of what we do are translatable. And we work across three key things, which is first contact resolution, first call resolution, first consult resolution. So if someone lands in your digital space, they've got to be able to book online, order online, communicate with you, do stuff without picking the phone up. That's what we do. If they do have to pick the phone up, then you have to then say, they're only ringing us because they haven't fixed it. So they need us now. So we need to connect them to a vet at the end, connect them to a vet, connect them to a doctor, whatever it is in your country. And then first consult resolution is they're in front of you now. So go to good medicine now, because they've left it 4 days because they've been trying to fix it. So don't wait and see. Bad medicine is, we'll see how it goes. Or let's try. Nope. Done all of that. Done the white fish, done the starving, done the box rest, done the hosing. Fix it. So those three, if you get those three right, then everything kind of flows from that culturally. It's all about culture. But it's about someone managing it. So, measure, train, inspire, the whole thing. It's entirely, it's like all things in life. It's not rocket science, genuinely.
Okay.
The fact that McDonald's and those guys can make it work is just like, this is what we do, guys. Do it like this.
What is it that the Australians are getting that the UK practices aren't?
Well, a lot of tick paralysis. They have horrible diseases, so they have to have a bloody system.
They have horrible creatures over there.
Yeah, but if you're in an emergency setting in Australia and someone rings up and goes, I think my dog's being bitten by a snake, or I think it might be tick, you don't fanny around. It's like, you've got 20 minutes, mate. This is our protocol. This is how we deal with it. Get to an emergency centre. So that they've got, I just think they've got more, it's your choice. If you do this, your dog might live. If you do this, your dog's going to die. The end. There isn't, we could do this or we could do that. So it's very direct.
So this is part of the Australian. I mean, I love my time in Australia. I'm going to go back there as soon as I can. That they are very direct. It's almost a take it or leave it. It's a brace yourself, Sheila. That's their definition of foreplay, isn't it? It's.
I think that perhaps isn't the best analogy. I think they have a clear view of what's possible.
Oh, okay, clear view. I apologise for that. Yeah, fair enough. I find the Australians very direct. So what you're saying, you're almost talking there about procedures and protocols, Alison, and almost checklists.
Am I really? I don't know. I'm talking about, no, I think I'm talking about cultural belief that by the time someone picks the phone up and goes, I'm ringing the vet because I'm a bit worried about my dog. In Australia, that could be terminal. Yeah. It's like, you're worried about your dog, come in. And if they choose not to come in, that's on the owner's head. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas here we know our appointment offer rate on all the calls that we do. We've just done a massive research project for someone to see what's been happening over August and September with, a scenario. So we've run every practice in Britain that does small animal work we've just got a puppy, how much vaccines. Very standard scenario, everyone's got a puppy. And of those, I think it was 31% offered to see that puppy. Wow. 31% offered to see, which by your mathematics, if you're quick, means that 69% didn't. Right. Now, why do we not invite them in? They've got a baby dog, they've run a vet practice. Why not offer to connect them? Because that puppy needs a lifetime of care and it needs to, be health checked. It needs a load of stuff. Whereas in Australia, I find that they have a refreshing approach to, well, you've rung us, so here you go. If you don't come in, then that's on your head. Whereas I think it's cultural. Yes, you could work with, checklists and the checklist manifesto. I'm sure, the Atal Gawande stuff is something which, until we put procedural stuff in at key points, I think it has to happen, airline safety, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a layer of culture above that. Because if you just do checklists without culture, it becomes methodically very dull and people resent it. We're doing this so that we save lives, or planes don't crash, or patients live longer, or they survive anaesthesia, or we make the best of it. I think there's a cultural piece that says we do this because we can. It's what's the right thing.
Well, that's right. There's the other layer as well, where someone phones up, it's the client phones up, it's got a new puppy. You want to actually see it. And you want to say, look, Benji, for heaven's sake, bring it in. What are you doing?
You're not answering the phone, though, are you?
No, but actually most of my receptionists, but they're all interested, and so it's not just
but that's cultural.
And they'll say to me, Julian, look, I'm sorry, I know you're fully booked today, but
it's a puppy.
He's got a new puppy. You got to see it. So it's coming in at 6 o'clock, and is that all right?
But they know that you're okay with that because you've set the culture.
Yeah.
You've said this is what we do here. Someone gets a puppy, we see the puppy because it's the right thing. We like puppies, but the puppy needs to see us. You've set the culture and it's trickled down.
Yeah.
Culture is what happens around here. What happens around here is someone rings up with a puppy, Julian sees it. That's the culture around here. You've set it. It's not the same everywhere. It's like, it's 10 to 7 on a Friday. Everyone can just bugger off. I'm not seeing puppies that can come in on Monday. That's culture as well. But I just think the urgency of the Australian culture is, I think they have an urgent crack on, don't fanny around, jobs are good and I think the culture's totally different. It suits my approach.
I remember seeing practice, and I was at a practice where there were a couple of EMS. There were a couple of Australian vets there. They were rather nice, actually. And one of them said, "Hey, Julian, do you want to come around for a barbie tonight?" And I said, "Yeah, all right, fair enough." So yeah, it's going to be a nice night. We're just going to be, just wearing our thongs and stuff. And I
thought, the thong problem.
Hey, fantastic, brilliant.
Oh, you'll be popping a thong.
Popping, absolutely. So I turned up. Well, thongs are flip flops, aren't they?
They are, and you pop the thong when you bit you pops out.
Yeah, I'd never been so uncomfortable in my life. Honestly, I put my shorts on over my mankini, and it right up. Enough said. Mike's been there. He knows that. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable.
The trouble with language, isn't it? Is one word means one thing and it might mean another. But thong is so. But yeah, they have a different culture, Mike. I just think they deal with it differently.
Yeah, and for the guys in America, a thong in Britain is a sort of a string bikini bottom, and a thong in Australia
shoe.
We call a flip-flop or a shoe, which is where the little piece comes up between your big toe and your next toe. And what do they call them in America?
Do you know, that's what I was just thinking. I don't know what
help me out here, guys.
I have no idea.
In America.
Remote consults have taken off, haven't they?
Well, have they?
What can you tell us about that?
Have they?
I'm going to say here, I hate them.
Are you doing video or phone?
Both.
Right. Which do you prefer?
Neither. Yeah. No, actually, out of both, I prefer phone.
Do you?
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Go on.
No, I
just because the people that we tend to do the video consults with are completely unable to point the video at the problem area of their pet, and so I find it much easier to get them to explain.
How would that help you this is brilliant, because this is priceless, because you're wanting to do through video what you would do through fingers and eyes. You can't, because you're not there. So you have to use your ears and listen, and then go, yes, I can vaguely see it doesn't look quite right, or actually I can see, and what you said, it'll be okay. So you're triaging. You're not doing a diagnostic.
No, we're not. We're doing a best case scenario of a triage.
Yeah, and you may know, like you said, you know your clients, so you've got an established vet-client-patient relationship, so your VCPR is in place. So I know Bobby, I've known Bobby's mum and dad. VCPR, vet-client-patient relationship, critical. If you have one established, you can have a relationship with people because you know them. If you haven't got one established, it's the first time you spoke to them, you don't have one established. And for our North American colleagues, that's a legal requirement. And it varies state by state for disease process as well. So you need a VCPR for each disease presentation in the US. So dog presented seen once for a lameness, that same dog presented for a sore eye, you need to physically assess the eye to have a VCPR for the eye issue. So it's disease process track.
In one of those headaches. Oh, no, I've caught up. Yeah, so, that's fine.
But the reason being that if you had a VCPR, whether it's phone or video, you kind of know them.
Yes.
So you can kind of make it work. But if you don't know them, you're trying to do a diagnostic consult and you don't know them. So it's not working for you. I just went to a BMJ paper, which is just sitting on my desk, which is the medics looking at how they use video consults for human medicine. Yeah. And there are drawbacks. Yes. One of which is we don't really get to touch the people or see the bit we want to see because you can't see eyes. You know, it's like if you're a human with uveitis, you know, you're going to go like this and go, my eye's not right. It doesn't really work.
No.
There are limitations, and to say there aren't is to misrepresent the situation. What there are is massive opportunities. For me, video top trumps phone because you can see. Mm-hmm. And if you already know, like for Shami needs to go back in 2 days for a dressing change and so many days for a checkup. He won't be going back. I will take the dressing off and I will look at it and I'll send the picture and go, is it okay? I will also remember I am an MRCVS and I should know that, but hey. And then I'll do the same thing.
We do that for post-op checks now, and I don't think we'll ever stop doing it. So a couple of days time.
That's your fusion, isn't it? Yeah. So in the same way that the video was sent to me from the practice to say he's okay, I could have sent that video to them saying, what do you think? That is also remote medicine, but with an established vet client patient relationship framework. There's a huge place for remote medicine as a continuity of care. We've established a relationship. We know you, you know me, I know that patient. Continuity of care, you can't get in, or it's a bit tricky today. He's done this, what do you think? Perfect. It's not the answer to everything. And I do think perhaps we're barking up a few trees on remote prescribing without established VCPRs.
Interesting.
Yeah, Joe, I hadn't thought of it as being a VCPR before, but there are so many of my friends who will send me videos or photos of their pets, and I know them very well, and they'll say, you know, Jack's doing this today. Is that all right? No, that's not all right. He'll go blind, is the answer, or whatever. Or you know, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, he's doing well. Or you know, no, stop him doing that and replace the strawberry jam. You know, whatever. The whole litany of possibilities exist.
So 40% of your annual health checks have got something else going on, which is a very strong argument for not having remote prescribing without an established VCPR.
Absolutely, but actually, I was going to, if I could correct you there in the most positive way, it's not 40% of people, 40% of vaccines have something else going on. 40% of consults have something picked up, and so there's a minimum of 40% have something else going on, and you could argue that a lot more have, but they get missed.
I think what he did. Hang on a minute, I can't remember what he did. He didn't. He reviewed and went. It was picked up.
It was picked up, but it wasn't then necessarily. So there's that sort of Venn diagram, isn't there?
Yeah.
Of the problems that exist and the problems that are picked up, and the problems that are picked up.
And the chances are that 40% understates because that was noted and picked up, so there probably would be more. Yes. Yeah. But the point being is that you shouldn't be dishing out POMVs without laying hands on them.
Yeah, almost half the patients you jab a vaccine in have something else that really needs addressing.
Exactly.
But actually, it shows the importance of an annual vaccination, and we
an annual health check. We might not need the vaccine.
I know, absolutely. Yeah. But it is. We call it an annual vaccination, and we pick up on things otherwise. But you're absolutely right, Alison. It's an annual health check, and it's
MOT. It should be a license to own. Like if you're going to own this critter or this flock or herd, once a year you have to have a veterinary intervention that says that they're well and what's going on. Just like
make sure it's okay. Because a number of clients who come in and say, you know, any problem with Fido here? No problem at all. Oh, or except he appears to have lost a leg during the last year. I hadn't noticed that. It's not quite like that, but the owners often don't pick up on even serious things, not through any fault of their own at all, but because they're not qualified to read certain clinical signs. And so that's the benefit of an annual check. And some would argue a biannual check would be more useful, because actually, if you can pick up on things very early on, there's nothing worse than seeing a dog or a cat for an annual check and saying, oh my goodness, do you know, there's a problem here. There's a lump. I can feel there's little point in doing the vaccinations today, because actually there's cancer, there's a problem here or whatever that we can't do much about. And that would have been picked up more often in the human field, because there would have been a symptom. And dogs and cats don't have symptoms. They display clinical signs, and we can read those clinical signs as astute owners, or I'm not saying that astute owners are going to miss things, because that would be an awful thing, wouldn't it? If your dog or cat comes up with a problem and you've missed it. If you've missed it, it's not because you're not an astute owner, it's because they are clinical signs, not symptoms. And symptoms are what we feel with a disease. And as humans, we can feel a disease far more quickly than an outward display of that disease is presented.
I think, well, there's another aspect to that, Julian, I think, and that is there's two strains running here. One is that I rock up to my GP every year and go, it's time for my annual check. And he goes, what? But you're the fittest patient I know. And I go, no, but I've always had an annual check. And that goes back to my days as a ski racer and a cyclist, where we used to have 6 monthly checks to make sure that we were hitting our numbers. But the other thing is that when you live with a person or live with an animal, the progressive nature of a disease or a problem is not noticed. When you then see that person or that animal after a year or 6 months, you suddenly notice, and obviously in human terms, we go, oh, you're looking well. Fat.
Yes.
You're looking well. You've gained 2 stone. Why have you gained this 2 stone in the intervening period? Because the last time I saw you, you were skinny as a rake. And the value of that is that the last time you saw Mrs. Jones's Tricky Woo, Spaniel, Cockapoo or whatever, you have fixed in your mind the perception of that animal as it was 6 or 12 months previously. Suddenly they've got a lump here, they're overweight or they're underweight or something else. And you look at your records and you say, well, I measured Tricky Woo at 20 kilos. Why is Tricky Woo 30 kilos today? You know, that's the 30% increase in body. You know, what's been going on? And then you further investigate. So to a certain extent, I mean, I'm fully with you on the annual MOT. I think vital service, but you are depreciating the value of time and seeing that patient afresh and noticing the differences in what's presenting, because in your mind that animal is thin, fat, or whatever, and suddenly they're presenting as fat, thin, or whatever.
We had a client a few months back. Sent a picture of a dog's eye. He's got a nasty thing on his eye, and so we said, "Well, send us a picture of his eye." So she did. It was this sort of out of focus, little sort of greyish, whitish thing, and so my receptionist looked at it and said, "Any chance of sending a clearer picture?" So, you know, an hour later, I mean, she should have got the client straight. An hour later, the client sent another photo, and this is similarly out of focus sort of petri dish picture. No, any chance of a better picture? And so the client sent a picture of she'd drawn something in felt tip and said it looks a bit like that. And so the receptionist said, "Yes, I think you need to come straight in."
So tell me, Julian, have we got? I know Alison's a keen fan of the RCVS, and now Alison's giggling now.
No, it's just that could be misinterpreted.
You're just wondering where this is going to, aren't you? Are you asking about a CPD certificate?
I'm just wondering whether we've got a CPD certificate for this.
Yeah, we do. We do. Look, there we go.
So what's this say?
This says certificate for you to keep.
Oh.
And it says, this certifies that Alison Lambert has joined
you, Alison.
in Veterinary Ramblings and taught us all well.
Excellent.
Now, the pictures around here may need some sort of explanation.
What's with the picture of the llamas?
Well, they're alpacas.
They're alpacas. Okay.
They're alpacas.
What's with the picture of the alpacas, Julian?
Well, it's really because Alison was brought up in a farm in Yorkshire.
We didn't have any alpacas.
No, but I couldn't find. What I don't want to do is have to pay copyright for photos when I got so many thousand on my camera. I didn't have any photos of a farm in Yorkshire, so this is one just down the road from me in West Chorlington. Now we're having targeted CPD, so there's a target.
Oh right, got you.
There we go. And we're really wanting to highlight your company, Onswitch. I didn't have any pictures of switches because they're rather boring to draw or paint or photo. So I've got a picture of that
looks like a lighthouse.
It's a lighthouse, and basically, if you own a lighthouse, you'd be buggered without an Onswitch, wouldn't you?
Yes, and thereby hangs a tail on the name as well. Interesting, because there's no off switch.
There is no off switch in a lighthouse. You're absolutely right. So there we go. There's my lighthouse, and I thought, there you go. You're providing a rainbow which gives this amazing pot of gold for those that follow your training.
A cornucopia of knowledge shining from the clouds.
A cornucopia of knowledge, and it says signed me and him, and written there him and me. So there we go. That's the certificate.
Splendid.
So anybody can download the certificate, and depending on the length of the podcast, present that to the RCVS as their CPD for the evening.
Absolutely. Oh, but it's not valid though, is it, Mike? Unless I know with this, Alison. Yeah. What do you have to do? You do the CPD, and then what do you have to do?
Reflect.
You have to reflect.
Reflect. So Alison, can I invite you to join us in a moment of reflection on the CPD that we have provided this evening, please? There's no schoolboy giggles there, are there?
None at all. Serious reflection there.
Serious reflection.
So thank you, Alison, for that.
Thank you very much indeed, Alison.
Wonderful evening of CPD.
Yeah, absolutely. We're obviously at that time of the night, Alison. I have to prepare you for this. Additionally, Julian tells us a joke.
Oh, right, okay.
It might be polite to laugh.
Before he tells it.
It's probably best. You won't laugh afterwards.
I'll cue you in as to when is the best time to laugh.
And I'll be honest, I completely forgot that I'd do a joke. I don't know why.
But you always do a joke.
I know. I completely forgot. But I then thought halfway through this evening's chat, I thought I've got to do a joke, and then Alison said something that triggered in my mind the joke that I should do.
Oh, okay.
So here we go, and we'll pick up the connection later. It's about it's a current joke, so it mentions the pandemic, but it's about this chap who has a very, very strong connection with his dog, and every day, 7:05 in the morning, he leaves his house, he walks down the road to the local shop, and he gets his paper. The dog comes with him, and he pays for the paper, puts the paper in his dog's mouth, and the dog walks back. paper in his mouth. Every day he does that for at least 5 years. And this dog loves this routine. And one day, the poor chap has got coronavirus and he can't go out of the house. And he feels pretty miserable as well. And he says to the dog, he says, look, we're not going this morning. We're not going to the shop. And the dog looks miserable. He's used to, this is his day. 7:05 every morning, he goes out with his master and he walks to the shop and he thinks, I can't do it. I'm miserable. And the owner picks up on this because they've got a very close relationship. And he says, tell you what, do you think you know the way to the shop? And the dog goes, so he puts his wallet in the dog's mouth. He says, go along, go and see Bill at the village shop and get the paper and bring it back. So off goes the dog. And the man lies back and he's got a temperature and a really sore throat. He's feeling miserable. And he's lying back in bed. He drifts off for a while and he wakes up about an hour later and he thinks, the dog's not back yet. And he gives another hour and he thinks he's still not back. Where is he? And he knows he shouldn't go out, but he's worried about his dog. And so he puts his coat on and he puts his mask on and he walks to the village shop. And about a mile down the road, he hears this sort of grunting noise. And it's coming from an alleyway. And he looks into the alleyway and there's his dog making love to this gorgeous Cocker Spaniel. And he says, Rover, my God, you've never done this before. And the dog says, well, in fairness, you've never given me the money before.
It's actually quite a good joke.
That's a good joke.
I know, it's not one of mine.
Is it not?
Season 3, and we've got a joke we can all laugh at.
Yay!
That's actually quite a good one.
I thought of that joke because you said, quote, the animals don't pay the bill. So I thought, well, there we go.
Exactly.
That's what that does.
Exactly. Rover does. Bless him.
What a fabulous joke. What a wonderful, wonderful end to a marvellous evening.
What a great evening. What a fantastic evening. Thanks,
It's been
Alice.
fun, actually. Yeah, no, not knowing what I was walking into. It was like, yeah, well, that's a laugh. And I've still got half a bottle of wine left. So.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
I know.
I've still got half a bottle of whiskey left.
Well, we'll deal with that. I think I've got about a quarter of a bottle of gin left.
Oh, good. That's taken a hit, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, one or two. But on that note, Alison Lambert, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Pleasure.
And join us in the future for another episode of Veterinary Ramblings. And until the next time, may your dog go with you.
May your dog.
Cheers.
Cheers. And cut!
Marvellous.
Did you enjoy yourself, Alison?
Yeah, no, it's like being in the bar at BSABA, isn't it?
Yeah,
It was a great evening, wasn't it?
It was a good
Fantastic.
evening. Yeah.
And someone like that, she has so much talent, so much experience, so much to give back to the profession.
Oh, in so many ways and in so many areas.